Welcome to our channel. Today, we have the following news. Liu Yuning's 7.0 Carnation Music Festival. The discussion surrounding celebrity live streams in the Chinese entertainment industry has taken an interesting turn. It began with a backstage photo posted by Liu Yuning's sound engineer several hours before his live stream on August 19, 2026. The image showed a studio crowded with mixing consoles, control panels, labeled cables, and monitor speakers. There were no filters, no glamorous visuals, and no celebrity poses, just the equipment needed to make a live performance work. The photo quickly resurfaced after the live stream and was shared thousands of times. One question appeared repeatedly: was all of this really necessary for a live stream? The answer became increasingly obvious as the event unfolded. On August 19, during Kixi Festival, Liu Yuning's Weibo live stream began at 7 p.m. When the screen came on, viewers immediately filled the chat. His opening remark was surprisingly casual: "It's been over 100 days since I last streamed. I'm a little rusty." He said it softly, almost as if speaking to himself. Yet behind those seemingly simple words was an enormous amount of preparation. At the time, Liu Yuning was filming the drama Iron Evidence in Kunming. The live stream was also held in Kunming, but he apparently felt the original location lacked the atmosphere he wanted. The night before the broadcast, he contacted the production team and asked whether the drama's art director could help transform the space. The art director arrived around midnight to inspect the location. Afterward, a complete design was created. The props and production teams then worked through the night. By the following day, the live stream studio had been transformed into a spectacular sea of carnations, featuring more than 50,000 real flowers. Flowers, however, were only one part of the production. The sound equipment was transported from Beijing, using the same setup from Liu Yuning's second solo concert tour. The accompanying band was also from that tour, with music director Liu Zhuo and his team providing live accompaniment. His regular concert sound engineer handled the audio, while a professional live streaming team managed cameras, directing, and broadcasting. Even his costumes were prepared to concert standards. Outfits were flown in from Beijing, including custom pieces and his recognizable red microphones. High-definition concert footage was also incorporated into the broadcast. At that point, it was difficult to call the event an ordinary live stream. It looked more like a full-scale concert, except the audience was watching through phone screens instead of sitting inside a venue. The broadcast lasted approximately 2.5 hours, during which Liu Yuning performed 31 songs live. There were songs such as Let the Wine, Looking for You, Heavenly Questions, and Together with the Stars. Costume changes and casual interaction were kept relatively brief, allowing the focus to remain on the music. One viewer jokingly commented that everyone was essentially sitting in the front section of a concert, but the tickets cost nothing. There was no tipping, product placement, or advertising. According to the account surrounding the event, Liu Yuning personally covered the costs, reportedly amounting to millions of yuan. The final viewing figure reportedly exceeded 74 million. But the numbers were not necessarily the most remarkable part. The event was connected to Liu Yuning's long-running Carnation Music Festival series. Beginning in 2021, the project has continued to evolve. Earlier versions featured much simpler arrangements, while version 7.0 filled the space with tens of thousands of real carnations. For fans, the significance lies in the consistency. Over the years, the festival has remained a fan-oriented project, built around August 17. The unofficial 817 fan festival created by his supporters. Liu Yuning has continued to acknowledge the date and respond with special performances. This year, he combined the fan festival, Kixi Festival, and Carnation Music Festival 7.0 into one enormous live stream. That is why the sound engineer's backstage photograph became so meaningful afterward. Every cable and piece of equipment represented hours of preparation. Behind the flowers were exhausted production workers. Behind the music were musicians and engineers who had traveled from Beijing. Behind the polished broadcast were teams working through the night. During the live stream, Liu Yuning even asked the director to switch to a panoramic shot while he was singing. The camera revealed the enormous field of carnations illuminated by stage lights. He proudly described the Iron Evidence production team as exceptionally ironclad, then took time to mention the people who had contributed to the show, including Liu Zhuo, the sound engineer, the live streaming team, and the musicians. That detail mattered. Instead of treating everyone as anonymous staff, he acknowledged their individual contributions. In an entertainment industry where celebrity live streams can sometimes feel like standardized commercial productions, Liu Yuning's approach stood out. Rather than treating a live stream as something that simply needed to happen, he appeared to treat it as something worth improving, from version 1.0 to version 7.0. The irony was that he did not use the event primarily to sell anything. Instead, he reportedly disabled tipping and gave viewers a concert-like experience for free. When the live stream ended, the flowers were eventually dismantled, the equipment was packed away, and the teams returned to their usual work. What remained were 2.5 hours of live music, 31 songs, and more than 74 million views. Then people returned to that original backstage photo. A mixing console. A control panel. Cables. Speakers. No filters. No glamour. Just evidence of how much work had happened before the cameras turned on. And perhaps that is the real answer to the question, was all of this really necessary for a live stream? Maybe it wasn't. But for Liu Yuning, that seemed to be precisely the point. If he was going to give his fans a live stream, he wanted to give them something that felt worth remembering.